What is up, y'all? Within today's video, we're going to be talking about Jeffree Star for a few different reasons. You know what's so crazy is I lagged on editing my last video that I talked about Jeffree Star, and I was like, I feel like he's low-key like stirring the pot recently because he's going to be coming out with a new collection, and I'm not exaggerating. The very next day, he announced that he is going to be coming out with a new 10th anniversary collection, which was called like the Gold-Blooded collection. I'm gonna do a full my thoughts and opinions video about that. You guys will see soon, and I just think it's so ironic that I'm like, oh, this fool has been stirring the pot recently, and then bam, all of a sudden he announces his product launch. And I have to say, I feel like this method is low-key kind of tired. Like, I'm just keeping it real. I'm just kind of like, okay, why do we all notice a pattern? And I'm not the only one that says it. Like, yes, I've been saying it on camera for years now, but everyone, even on TikTok, is starting to say it. People have said it before on YouTube. People say it all the time on Reddit, that Jeffree Star seems to always stir the pot when it comes down to him coming out with a new collection. And I'm like, I don't know. I guess, like I said before, I said this numerous amounts of times, I feel like he does see, like, I don't know, like he sees success in that. Like, I guess it works out for him, but I just feel like, I don't know. You just always notice that he's always like stirred up in some type of drama around a product launch. And I just have to say, I don't think that that's a coincidence, because it's literally been an ongoing thing for all these years that he has been coming out with big collections. The collections that he is coming out with, the Gold-Blooded collection, is a big collection. So I'm like, oh, everything makes sense. Well, within today's video, we're going to be talking about an issue that I guess apparently he was backstage with. I don't want to call him a fan, but I guess he's like a TikToker too, a content creator too. I don't know exactly what to call him, because to be honest with you, I haven't heard of him before this. With Bunny as well as Jeffree Star, and he made some claims against Jeffree Star. Also, Jeffree Star was on TikTok Live, and he was talking about his experience on the canceled podcast. And I'm so sorry. I hope that you guys have had enough time now to watch that podcast. If you guys did not see, I actually uploaded a video last week talking about everything that he did talk about on that podcast. And it's so funny that I was editing that back, and I forgot to mention in there, I was like, I have noticed this ongoing thing with Jeffree that, damn, he just like has to be the main talking point. And look, I totally get it. Obviously, you're inviting him onto your podcast, but I feel like a podcast is a mutual conversation. It's not just an interview. I know a lot of people obviously do consider it to be an interview, but I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit different. I feel like a podcast is a mutual conversation, and that's what I like to watch, is like two people or three or however many people are on the podcast have an open conversation, not just specifically about that person. Say, for example, if you're talking about a topic and the host of the podcast relates to that and they have a little story to tell, cool. I think it's so funny that Jeffree Star did have some things to say about Tana Mongeau, and he kind of said that it was really annoying that they kept on talking over him. And I was like, if you guys have watched that podcast, you guys will see the clip that I'm going to show you within today's video. Please let me know if I'm tripping, because I felt like he kept talking over them. Like, I felt like every single time that they would go to say something, he would like cut it off in between. And I'm like, am I crazy here? Because I literally thought the opposite. I didn't think that they were talking over him, but I just think that maybe he went into it with the mindset of, oh, you know what? Like, they invited me onto their show, so obviously it should be fully about me. But I feel like at the end of the day, if they're really friends, which I feel like he uses the term loosely, because I don't really feel like they're like friends like that. I feel like they're just kind of like mutuals. Do you know what I mean? Maybe acquaintances, I guess you can say, but I don't think that they're friends. But if he does claim that they are friends, then obviously it's gonna be like that. Like, y'all, if you guys were to ever hear like how me and my friends are before, we always have this thing of like, we'll kick it in the car before going into the bars or the clubs or whatever. When we go out, we all just start talking over each other all the time. Like, literally, that's just how we are. If we have something to say, we interject in the middle of it. And I'm like, that's just kind of how friendships are. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't know why he was like all pressed about that, but I'm like, he should watch that back, even though he supposedly he was watching it back and saying like, oh, this is what I thought about this and this is what I thought about this. But I'm like, maybe he's just like not self-aware, because I'm like, girl, you were talking over them numerous amounts of times. And I had noticed that before in two other podcasts that he has done, that I'm like, damn, girl, let the other person speak. Actually, I think when he was talking to Bunny, when he was on the Dumb Blonde podcast, I was like, damn, he doesn't let her talk at all. Like, I'm like, damn. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about that. And then the situation, speaking of, I was going to say Bad Bunny. Of oh my gosh, what's her name? Jesus Christ. No, what's her name? Oh my gosh, why did Bunny XO? That's why I wanted to call her Bad Bunny. Jesus Christ. There was another thing that I was just gonna mention. I think that's why I got a little tongue twisted right now, because I was like, there was one other thing about Jeffree Star that I wanted to tell you guys about, but I literally forgot what it was. So if it comes back to me, I'll let you guys know. Let me shut up. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so I was literally sitting here thinking about it, because I was like, it was at the tip of my tongue, and I was like, what was I going to say? And then I totally remembered that I was gonna say, what is up with the Just Trish podcast? Like, I'm starting to think now, is she not going to come out with the episode with Jeffree Star? A lot of people were speculating on TikTok that she's going to scrap that podcast, because apparently a lot of people are speaking bad about Jeffree being on the canceled podcast. But this is where I have to say, and I've made this comment before, that I saw a lot of people talking on Reddit specifically, and this is where I start feeling like maybe I'm the weird one. Maybe I'm the oddball out. Maybe I perceive life so much differently than other people, because this specific Reddit forum that I had seen about people commenting about Jeffree Star should not go onto the Just Trish podcast. There was people commenting on there that he has a horrible past and she shouldn't have people on him, like have people like him on her podcast. And I'm sitting there reading these comments and I just have to say, like, I feel like these people are like low-key really hypocritical or just like ignorant. Like, I'm just kind of like, do you not know Trisha Paytas' past? She has a super controversial past. So this is where I get really confused about things like that, because I'm like, I look at them both and I'm like, they both have a really controversial past. So to me, I view them as like equal. Do you know what I'm saying? But then I have to stop and think that maybe these people that are making these comments about Jeffree Star being on the podcast, maybe they know Jeffree for longer and they didn't know Trisha. Do you know what I'm saying? I just kind of feel like if you know Jeffree's history, and I feel like you know Trisha Paytas, and I just feel like in my head that you probably know her history too. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's where I get a little confused when like I see so many comments about this and so many people are literally like boycotting having him on the podcast and saying you should not upload that episode. And I'm sitting here thinking like, she has a very controversial past too. Like, I'm just kind of like, do you guys not know that? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like the oddball out on this, but I'm like, just put up the damn episode. I think that maybe it is getting to her though, because y'all want to say they filmed almost 3 weeks ago, and I feel like she is really good with like, she'll film on like, I don't know, like a Monday or something, and then it'll come out like 2 days later. So I'm like, this is taking a really, really long time, and I'm starting to wonder, is she going to come out with the episode? Anyways, the first topic that I want to talk about with Jeffree is the situation that is blowing up on TikTok right now, that apparently this guy met, I guess he's like a friend or like maybe like an acquaintance of Bunny, and I guess they were backstage. I want to say that maybe they were at like a Jelly Roll concert. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. But they were backstage somewhere, and Jeffree Star was there. And I was gonna say Bad Bunny. Why do I keep on wanting to call Bunny Bad Bunny? Like, I swear my brain sometimes. Anyways, they were backstage, and he made these comments about Jeffree Star saying that he was a complete asshole. I have to say this, and I know that you guys are going to be like, oh my gosh, you're like kissing Jeffree Star's ass, but y'all know that I have no problem speaking out against Jeffree Star whenever my opinion is swayed that way. Whenever he does something that I don't like, I'll obviously say what I have to say. But I do have to say, when it comes down to meeting Jeffree Star, I have met him, I want to say 4 or 5 times. And honestly, y'all, this is like throughout the years. Like, I want to say the first time that I very first met him, I was 18 years old, maybe 19. I have a picture of us together at Tiger Heat, which if you guys are from the LA area, y'all know Tiger Heat was way back in the day. It was like the poppin' like 21 and under, or 16 and over club. Was it 16 over? Well, I guess for a while there it was 16 over, and then it was 18 and over. But anyways, in my head, I stopped going there as soon as I turned 21, because I was like, oh, there's so many other options. But I met him there 2 times, and honestly, I have to say, like, he was super, super sweet. Recently, you guys know that I told you my homegirl sister had ran into him before at a CVS down in Orange County. This is years ago too. I want to say maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, and she saw him like holding up like an ice pack to his face, that I guess she was waiting in line for a prescription, he was waiting in line for a prescription, and he had just got dental work done, and she was like, oh my gosh, like I really want to ask him for a picture, because like, when am I ever going to see him again? And she asked him for a picture, and he was totally nice, and he let her know, he's like, I'm so sorry, like I look busted, can we take it from this side, because this side of his face was swollen from the injection and the root canal that he had just had. And he still took the picture with her and was super nice, and like was telling her about his dental experience. Do you know what I mean? So I have to say this. Obviously, I know everybody has their bad days and things like this, so I'm not discrediting this guy whatsoever, that maybe Jeffree was a bitch. But I have to say, the numerous amounts of times that I met him compared to some other influencers, which is really crazy, because honestly, like, if you see Jeffree on live, it's like, you look at him, you'll be like, damn, like, he seems like he'd be a bitch, you know? And I totally see that. But I'm like, all the times that I met him, he was like super, super nice. Like, straight up, like, really, really nice. Actually, one time that I had met him at Tiger Heat, I was there with like 5 or 6 people, and all of like the people that I was with wanted to take a picture with him, and he took multiple pictures with everybody. So I was just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe he's fake. Honestly, that is always an option. Maybe he knows how to like be polite to people that are asking for pictures, because he knows that maybe they'll like expose him or something. So I have to say, obviously, take this story with a grain of salt, because Jeffree Star did make a comment about it and say that it was completely false, by the way. But I don't know. I find it to be a little bit weird, only because a lot of people have had really good interactions with meeting Jeffree Star. So anyways, go ahead and check out his story right here.
I keep seeing videos of Jeffree Star on my For You page. I guess people are rediscovering his problematic past and that he's a Trump supporter. Seems only fitting that I talk about my experience meeting him 6 months ago. Full transparency, I didn't want to talk about this because I thought me making a video about it would prevent me from being invited to other places by Bunny. But now I don't care, and I was never the problem here. Bunny and I have been friends on social media for quite some time, and we were both in Nashville at the same time, so she invited me and my husband to the Grand Ole Opry that night. It was a really big deal for us because we had never been invited to something like that, and we're both huge fans of country music. The first person that I saw when I went backstage was Jeffree Star. I thought that I had opened a wrong door and all of a sudden I was in 2008. My husband doesn't even have social media, so he had no idea who Jeffree Star even was. I thought he had canceled himself a long time ago, but apparently he was there for Bunny as well. Eventually, we all met backstage, and initially, it was fine. Then at some point throughout the night, me, Bunny, Jeffree, my husband, a couple other people on Bunny's team were all talking about haters online. My husband said, yeah, that's why I try and tell Jordan to not post in real time while we're out of town, because people are crazy and we've gotten death threats before. Jeffree looked at my husband and said, oh, I think you're giving yourself too much credit because who the fuck are you? Whew. We are people that got invited to be in the same room that you're in, sweetie. But if you thought my tongue was lethal, my husband's even worse. My husband is 100% with the shits. I could just see the TMZ headline in my head. Some words were exchanged, but I kind of gave my husband a look and I said, drop it. Even though Jeffree was rude as fuck, I knew that he and Bunny were really good friends and I'm the outsider here. So no matter what, I was on the losing end in this situation. I tried to do whatever I could to lower the temperature in that room. At one point, everybody was taking pictures together. I felt very fake in this moment. It was bad. I mean, there were even people that were on the wardrobe team that apologized to me and my husband. Bunny tried her best to diffuse the situation, and she's like, oh, that's just how Jeffree is. I think that's the problem. I didn't take what he said personally because I'm pretty sure that Jeffree Star hates himself, but at the same time, you can't just go around talking to people like that. I don't care how much money you have. You're not better than anybody. Knowing what I know now, as grateful as I was to have been invited to the Grand Ole Opry, as soon as I saw Jeffree Star, I should have turned around and went home. I am a true fan of country music. Being backstage at the Grand Ole Opry and with those artists is a dream. It's just unfortunate that my experience is now a little bit tainted because of this. So when people show you who they are, believe them.
So as you guys see from right there, he was saying like Jeffree basically was coming off very condescending towards him. Now, this guy did actually make an update. I was going to play it for you guys, but then I was like, oh, this video is going to get way too long because I really do want to talk about his interaction with the canceled podcast. But he did make another post about that, basically saying that Jelly Roll and Bunny ended up unfollowing him. I guess apparently Bunny reached out to him after seeing that TikTok and she said like, hey, like Jeffree is X, Y, and Z. And I guess basically she was trying to say like, oh, he's just sarcastic or he cracks jokes like this or this is just like his personality, which I could see before. Like he does kind of seem like he obviously has, you know, a little bit of like a dry sense of humor or a dark sense of humor. So maybe he was making that comment thinking that he was being funny and maybe it wasn't well received to the guy. And the guy was like, oh, okay, like you're being an asshole type of thing. But apparently after that, Bunny unfollowed him or blocked him. I forget exactly what he said in his follow-up TikTok. So I'm not discrediting his story. I'm just saying I feel like I don't really see too many TikToks about people like saying, oh my gosh, meeting Jeffree was just like absolutely horrible. Do you know what I mean? And also I have to go based upon my personal experience and I'm like, he has been really nice. So like I said, I'm not calling him a liar. Maybe Jeffree was having a bad day that day, but I just feel like this seems to be out of the norm of Jeffree because yes, we all do know that Jeffree could be an absolute asshole. I feel like he could be a big time diva and he has been known to pop off some people, but this story specifically seems like it's just so out of the blue. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, make sure you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions about that. Now, let's go ahead and talk about, and I'm going to play a little bit of the TikTok because it is pretty lengthy. I'll put the handle up of the TikTok that I found it from if you guys want to watch the full thing to where he was reacting to the canceled podcast. I'm going to play a small clip of it because I am curious of you guys' opinions about this. As you guys know, I made a video about it. And I just have to say, I'm sorry, but like he seems like a bitch in this instance because I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, you can't read a room, sir. Like if you're watching this podcast back, don't you see that you're talking over them? Do you know what I mean? It's not the other way around. And the fact that he was saying like it was kind of annoying, in my personal opinion, right here, he seemed a little bit rude because I'm like, I just put myself in Tana Mongeau's shoes. Like if I filmed a podcast with him and then that awkward situation had happened after the fact to where he was on live and they were on their Patreon live. And then he's still doing a reaction of this podcast after everything had happened. And he's still kind of like talking like, ugh, that was really annoying. That was really irritating. I'm like, oh, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Especially if these are like your friends. Do you know what I mean? And he says that they're friends, which I'm just kind of like, okay, it's clear to see that they're not really friends, that they're just like mutuals or acquaintances. But anyways, go ahead and check out this clip right here.
Remember when Tana wouldn't let me finish a sentence? It was really frustrating, you guys. I think she was just really excited to see me. Like, that's my girl, so I'm not shit talking, but yes, there is a lot where we're all over talking each other or we're speaking at all at the same time, and it is so annoying. That's my only complaint, is there's a lot of her over talking me.
I wasn't fully immersed in it because remember during the pandemic I was like, nope, we're still full YouTube.
Yeah, no, she was really excited, you guys. There's no negativity, there's no anything, there's no tea. She was just really, really like, ooh. woo! She was very excited. She hadn't seen me in probably over a year and a half, and it was really awesome, but still annoying.
As you all see from right there, he seems, you know, very annoyed about the outcome of the canceled podcast, which I don't know is so crazy to me that I feel like maybe I'm just looking at the podcast wrong. If you guys have checked out the canceled podcast with him on it, please let me know your thoughts and opinions about that, because in my head, I felt like he was over talking them, that every single time they would go to say something, that he would start speaking and then just completely take over, and they wouldn't really finish their statement or their little story times. You know what I mean? So I was like, it's crazy to see that he said that they were talking over him and he was annoyed by that, which I'm like, I thought it was the other way around, in my personal opinion. But anyways, make sure you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions about everything. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, Girl Scout.